Mark had kind of mentioned this in the past. You know, do you really know your clients? So go to the websites, maybe, you know, promotional products, sometimes we can just be order takers, and we don't even really know what trade shows are they going to, you know, what new initiatives are they starting. So go to the website, read up on some of the things that they're doing, pick up some brochures or whatever, or ask for brochures if you're in with them. Just say you'd like to see their, you know, their new materials that they're handing out, and develop a list of questions for them in advance of, kind of mentally prepare a list of questions that you might want to have prepared. And so if you've read, for example, that this company has, let's say, a safety as a leading mission, so write down some questions that you might want to find out about that. So you might ask, you know, what are your safety challenges? You're going to hear the word challenges a lot when we're talking about questions, you know. And do you already have a program that's in effect? And then how is that working? So you lots of questions that will be uncovering questions. I think that we're going to, you know, we'll give you a few more later on. And then fourthly, stay focused on what you want to accomplish in that meeting. And Mark has got something that he shared with me. It's called 5 Components of a Meeting, and I think it's really valuable, and it helps me keep on track with my meetings. Maybe you want to share that with the group.
Sure. I mean, it kind of falls into sales methodology of a good salesperson structuring a meeting so that you can have a purposeful outcome. So the way that you do that is you start by having, you go into it the correct way, and that is to, the 5 components are understand the purpose of the meeting, and I usually name a meeting. So for instance, if I know that we're going to be doing what I call a discovery session, so I want to really do fact-finding, that says that we're not there to present. It establishes that the purpose of this meeting with the client is to do discovery, to find out about them, not to talk about us. The second thing is the time of that meeting. You know, and to make sure that the scheduled time is going to be, you know what's happening before the meeting and what's happening after that meeting with that client so that you don't get rushed. I mean, how many times have we been in a meeting with somebody and they cut it short because something that, you know, they didn't tell us about. So here it is, we wasted our time. So I always structure the time of that meeting. And then I would say also then agenda. And I would have some specific points. And to Linda's question, or point that she made earlier was about having those questions, having an agenda out there of what they want and what you want. And it would be a good idea to get that before the meeting. And then roles. If you happen to be going into the meeting, you want to know who's going to be there on their side, who's going to be on your side. And if you're joint selling, you need to know that role up front. So when Linda and I get on a call together, if we're doing, or if we go in front of a customer, we always establish who's doing what, who's going to do play-by-play, who's doing commentary, and what are the ground rules for having this conversation so we don't one-up each other and digress off the point to the time that we're actually, you know, you lost the whole purpose of it. And then, of course, probably the most important is a clear outcome, and having that outcome established up front, telling that customer what you expect as an outcome. And typically an outcome is a next step. So what might that next step look like? And so those are the 5 components of a, you know, kind of a good meeting. I guess probably for any selling situation, not just incentives. Again, purpose, time, agenda, roles, and outcome.
And one of the things that I've found in working with my client is once that's established, I'll shoot them an email in advance and let them know that this is, you know, what it's going to look like, and ask them if they have any changes. Maybe they thought, oh no, we want something, you know, we want this to happen at this meeting so we can adjust it. And then the other thing that I do after the meeting is I recap. I'll send them a recap on what happened at the meeting. And then they'll have, you know, I'm taking notes and what I understand, and then I send them the recap. And if there's something that they feel like, oh, you know, I didn't understand that or whatever, then they can respond to it. And all of that information is really going to add credibility to what you're doing for them.
So just to set everyone's expectations, how long does it take for a typical incentive sales cycle? How long does that last? What's the beginning and end look like?
So the sales cycle could be anywhere from, a couple weeks because they're in a cramped situation and they're behind the eight ball needing to get something running, to a year or longer. And for those ones that are a year or longer, I wouldn't get discouraged, because what's happening along the way is that you're being an active participant in the growth of their program, because a lot of these incentive programs have their staged approaches to it. They may actually have a soft launch, which means that they're going to promote the program before the incentive program even occurs. And so you're creating a budget as part of the budgeting process for the incentive program, which may be 6 months down the road. But part of that budget is going to be the promotional campaign that's going to be used in the beginning of that program that may be launching off before it. And then on the other side, on the flip side, if you were going to go after the kind of low-hanging fruit and you looked at most companies' service awards, it's probably, it's the biggest growth area of my business, and there's a lot of reasons why. I'm not going to get into all those right now, but I'll tell you that it's growing exponentially for us. And we find out that companies right now are looking to cut costs, and they're looking to improve what they're doing. They may have had a more traditional program, and they're looking to move more into a lifestyle type program. So, that sales cycle could be very, very short. It could be from the time that you actually bring up the opportunity to the time that they're switching it and implementing. It could be just in a month or two. Right.
So before we get to the next steps, just questions to ask, I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So from a strategy standpoint, the advice, the three of you, just to make sure I'm on the same page. The advice is, I can go to my existing clients. I need to have conversations with them, correct? I need to understand what the gaps are and whatever it might be, if it's employee recognition, service programs, safety programs, to ask some questions and to try that out, probably with, I'm guessing, with your best clients, where you have the best relationships, and to try those things out. And then we talked about prospecting techniques and how you prepare, and there is some seasonality, and certainly we understand that, especially in the holiday season. And then we understand there's other buyers that are in the process, different people that we're going to be asked to be introduced to in the client site. But it all sounds like standard sales stuff at this point, so nothing too scary.
No.
So the realization, though, and it's probably obvious, so forgive me, in the incentive business, we're more in a concept sale than a product sale. Ultimately, the deliverables are tangible, but the methodology behind this is more concept. So I can appreciate the challenges. I've never been a promotional products distributor, nor have I owned a company doing promotional products. So I can imagine you're in the stuff business all day long, and now you're asking your salesperson to switch gears to be more in the think business and ask questions, and it may not be in their comfort zone. So that may be a whole new realm of thinking for your company, or how you want to do things, or training, or go through a book together. Great book I read a long time ago, Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. I mean, you've got to get them on this track, because this discovery stage that you keep hearing us refer to is of the utmost importance, and that's back to the questions and the listening that Linda brought up. And you're not going to sell the incentive program on your first visit to the client, I'll tell you that. It's going in, it's discover, it's going back, putting the think behind it, it's going and presenting. And the last thing that we still do, you've heard Mark say, Linda and I, is that because you're in a concept sale, we always strive to have, and I don't know if you can do this as a distributorship, but we like to have 2 people on a sales call, because it is a whole different skill set, asking questions, listening, and writing. And inevitably, you'll come out of the meeting and you'll say, did you hear what I heard? And there'll be a disagreement with 3 people in the room on what everybody heard. And that's, that's inevitable, but you cull that down when you have 2 people on a call. So we've learned that over the years.
That gets right to the next question I have for Linda. Assuming I'm meeting with a potential buyer for the first time, how do I set myself up to be an incentive consultant? And let's talk about how I not only talk only about that, but then talk about me being a promotional products provider as well.
Right. I think what I've learned to do is I always go in and say what I do in both areas. I name it right away. I don't just say I'm a promotional products buyer, which is kind of an elusive term anyway, right? Or seller. So I go in and I say I'm a marketing solutions provider, and we do this in a couple different ways. We do this through selling branded products that can be used for communication or recognition or sales handouts. And then we also are an incentive provider. And we partner along with you in your business, trying to help grow your business, trying to help, improve the performance of your employees, get better results from customers, whatever it is. And then people will be kind of lost in all those words. So what's really the next best thing to do is to just stop and talk to them and just say, all right, let me give you an example. And just say, so you're to this person that's standing in front of you, maybe you met them at a Chamber of Commerce meeting or an expo, and they say, well, I'm a safety director for a construction company. And you say, okay, and how's safety these days? Well, we're having a problem with